Welcome, everybody. Let's see. I've been trying to find. What's up, everyone? Welcome in. We'll allow people to start trickling in here. I see a few people joining already. Nice to see you. Got a very exciting workshop today. Going really in depth on how to actually show up and rank on AI search. This has been a really interesting topic over the last few months because we're seeing user behavior shift so much drastically already to AI. And the statistics that are coming out are incredible. We've had a really interesting time putting together a research report, which we're still working on. And yes, Cindy, we will get a recording to you. So the we've been having a lot of interviews recently, and actually putting together a first party research report on the state of AI. There's so much slop out there right now, so much misinformation, everyone telling you that you can replace everyone on your team with Claude Code, and it's just not the case. And so the work we've been trying to do is research and actually interview thought leaders and true pioneers in this space. Think of the caliber of like HubSpot or G2, the true players in this space that are influencing how AI search is showing up. And we'll be publishing that soon. But today in this session, we're going to be walking through, what you can actually learn and start implementing today because it is super important. I'm going to give a few minutes here, just confirming everyone can hear me okay, everyone can see me okay. We are very active in the chat on these workshops. So I love getting live questions from everyone, and we will be answering them as we go. Would love to know first, just, what's everyone's roles? What do you do? Are you guys on marketing? Are you guys founders? Okay. We got a few people saying they can't see me. All right, let me try to solve this. How about now? We got some data analysts in here. Love to see that. How are we looking? Yeah, getting some thumbs up. There we go. Good to see everyone. Awesome. So it sounds like we have some more technical roles in here, which is really cool to see. I think this is really helpful. I hope you guys are pushing for AI search. Again, this is something that we are seeing so much of user behavior and really a primary point of discovery for the more technical people in the audience here. I'm sure if you've been using Claude Code or some LLM to actually help, code and build your projects, a lot of times you don't even have a choice. The AI will make a recommendation of a tool to use or an API to connect to, and you just say, "Yeah, let's go for it," because it's already made that decision for you. And so it's so important to be that high ranking piece of information or that entity, and so that it can be the recommendation there. Looks like we have an editor publisher. Michelle, nice to meet you. Thanks for joining today. If you have any more content, specific questions, feel free to ask. Would love to dive into it. But as we get started, I want to just jump into talking about AI search and what is needed to start showing up. We have a free audit tool. There's a few of these out in the market. We obviously think ours is sufficient and is good. This is a great way to kind of get a benchmark of where you are ranking on LLMs, right? So it's super important before you can go and start making changes and actually showing up in AI search. We need a benchmark. Um, we as Catalyst, we are a growth marketing agency. We work with, mostly Series B and above stage companies who are really under a lot of pressure to grow. And AI has become a huge channel over the last 6 months, and there's been a lot of black box around it. And so, what we try to do is kind of demystify that black box. We've gotten it so AI search has become our client's best performing inbound sales channel. And so, there's a lot of power and a lot of value there if you're able to crack the code. But before you can start making some changes on how to do that, we need to first understand where we stand. And so we need to actually go see what AI is saying about us, saying about us as a company. Anyone brave enough to do a live audit here? I'll give you very specific tactical breakdown on what you can do to solve it if you're brave enough to just share your URL. If not, I can put in some dummy data here and we can talk about it as an example. But sometimes I like doing the live audit here in case anyone wants more specifics on how we can solve this for them. All right, we'll keep things flowing. So first we need to just go and look at, we'll do Attio. They're an interesting use case. They're CRM, modern CRM. I'd assume they're probably in the 10 to $50 million range. They might be a little bit bigger. But um, the way this audit works is we go and we think about who the user personas actually are that would be searching for this product, and we go and we run fresh searches on all the different LLMs. We search 5 different LLMs: Perplexity, Claude, uh, OpenAI, Google AIO, and Gemini. And we want technical components. So, right, are they technically optimized for showing up on AI? Looking at their entity as a whole. So that's one of the main differences between AI and SEO is we no longer just looking at content that lives on your website, but we actually have to have a full perspective of who this company is. So that means Reddit, that means Wikipedia, that means G2, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter. It's looking at all of these sources to build a comprehensive view of who this company is and how much quality they bring. Um, Looking at competitive ranking here. So a lot of the big tools will, for an Attio, a CRM, as an example, it might just say, HubSpot's got you dominated, right? Or Salesforce has got you dominated, which is helpful, but not really. You want to know who you're competing about. Like Pipedrive is another, incumbent that kind of fits in the same criteria. And so what we do is try to hone it in around who around you, same revenue range. That's why we ask for revenue. Is actually going to be who you're competing against, right? So we want to build a plan to rank for them because yes, the goal ultimately is to dominate and rank against Salesforce, but they've got a good head start. So we want to make this a little bit more tangible and reactive. It's look like we got a little stall here. I'm just going to hit refresh and I'll let that go. It is never a session here without a little bit of a technical hiccup. So as we let this run, we'll dive through it. But I want to first talk about some principles. Um, there are some key components, 3 main key components actually, of what we need to do to actually uh, rank. Let's see, can I hide these? There we go. To actually start ranking on AI search. And so This is essentially the user behavior today. Um, Without much input, they go in and they, just search ChatGPT, who the top vendor is for their category. We know over 74% of search queries for a brand are what is the best blank in blank category. And so if you're not in those top 3 companies, then you're really not even on the table to be considered. And so what the goal is showing up in those user searches. And so no longer just getting ranked on the first page of Google cuts it, where people are doing more evaluation. It is so much more pressure to show up in that first set of answers. We have turned this we've this playbook 150 plus times. We've got to work with companies of a wide range of stages, mostly in the B2B space. But our North Star metric is always getting you ranking number one across ChatGPT, Perplexity, and Gemini when people are going into that consideration. And so we've distilled a lot of our best practices across content production, technical, and offsite to be able to get you ranking and showing up as that first category. And so, what we'll first do is go through what the 3 levers are that you need to run to build entity authority. How to actually source AEO grade mentions, because getting mentioned by different publications and different sources are not all created equal. I think there's a lot of confusion around this. What that monthly cadence needs to look like, and then something that you guys can take away and actually start actioning on Monday. As always, feel free to drop questions in as we go. I love to kind of make things relevant to you. And so, the first thing we want to talk about is entity authority. And so, before we would talk about domain ranking, if you're familiar with SEO, where essentially is like, how credible is your website? When you're Google, you want to be recommending a website or, a resource that is valuable. So you look at how, some key metrics, click-through rate, page visitors, keyword references, how many backlinks they are, getting to their website, right? How many people are citing this as an authority? And while some of that still matters and is still valuable today, obviously the foundation plays similarly. We now are looking at multiple sources to create this cohesive view. So domain ranking is one component of those multiple different pieces. And so to become the actual source that LLMs trust is way more valuable than just becoming the biggest one. So before, ranking helps you get into that initial pool. And so in SEO, we were optimizing for things like becoming the page that ranks, backlinks and keywords, and then when a buyer shows up there, a click to your site, so click through rate. And we're seeing more and more with AI, because the user behavior is you do research on an LLM and then you go direct to the source. We're seeing click through rate not actually be the most reliable metric anymore. Um, Not sure why. I have some hypotheses on, just literally how ChatGPT and Gemini and Claude reference the sources, right? They're kind of hidden. And so we're not seeing that click through. And if people are, we're not actually always seeing that attribution. And so the highest type of attribution that we see is actually a rise in direct traffic um, as you start doing more AI efforts. Anyway, so for AI search, what the buyer is using now is they're looking at their LLM to tell them the entities that the LLM trusts. So I go in and I type in best CRMs for mid-stage B2B companies, B2B SaaS companies. I want Attio ranking. Let's see if we got through this bug. Oh no. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna try to get this solved while we do it. A audit tool. I'm gonna get my little AI agents working on the background. Um, All right, we'll see. I'll keep going while that loads, but I promise this will be up and working by the end of the session. We love the technical glitches. So when users go in and actually search on LLM, we want to be the one they mention, and it looks across the web. So again, we're looking at references of not only on-page domain authority, what the content you're producing, but offsite, reviews, listicles, your social media presence, what users are talking about you, and how they're talking about you on websites like G2 and Reddit are becoming so much more important to build this overarching metric that we call entity authority. So, how do you get named as the high entity authority? And so the first thing it looks at is how often is your name actually said across the web. Now, this is hard with companies and brands that maybe have more generic names, but it's remember, LLM has, while not the most intelligent thing in the room, it does have some reasoning and some logic to it. And so it is able to understand if it's talking about you in the correct reference. And so it is actually searching the entire web because it's trained on all the knowledge of the internet and continues to be. It looks at how you're showing up across every different website. And this is why we talk about social platforms like LinkedIn and YouTube becoming so much more popular, in addition to Reddit and G2, which have kind of been dominating the last 6 months. Because if you are truly an authority in your space, then your founders and your executive team also need to be representing that. So the engine counts how many trusted places talk about you. And those brand mentions move citations about 3 times more than just a generic backlink. Right now, genuinely, this is the biggest lever that we're seeing across the board, and not enough people are talking about it. And not all sources are created equal. A lot of people go, okay, great, this is a PR play. I'm just going to go get us some press. But often that press, speaks to a broad network, which is actually it's good, but it's not as good as getting a more niche industry. And then they are going and getting paid placements. And so as soon as an LLM sees something is sponsored or paid for, it automatically decreases your credibility on that site, and so you're better off not doing it at all. Now when you do show up, um, how much of that is live in the third party sources? Do you show up where you do not control the page? And so think of this. If you are a super niche uh, publication who only reviews B2B CRMs, when they're putting together their best of listicles and they include you in that list, um, they are going to maintain control of the editorial. And what we're seeing is more than half of AI citations point to pages you do not own. So your own website is the smallest part of that answer. And so you creating your own best of articles can honestly mostly help others versus yourself, because we know that right now it's prioritizing third party sites. Now, the third thing that's a little bit harder to track out of all of these is back to entity authority. But not only just authority, but cohesiveness. So, before, making sure that things across your own channels was hard enough, especially on your websites, to having consistent, clear messaging. And so if it says, if it's looking at Attio as a CRM, or, Attio as a CRM, and on your website, it's talking about being a, customer relationships platform. But then on social, it talks about an automation workflow because they also offer automations as a feature. And then on LinkedIn, your founder is talking about, his, entrepreneurial journey and, equity and being an entrepreneur. All of a sudden, the LLM is starting to get a little bit confused. Who are you? When someone types in what is the best CRM, you want to be the clear answer, which means you need to have really consistent messaging and really consistent branding across all of your channels, or else it starts to not unsure of how to categorize you. So the best thing to solve this is write down one sentence that defines your company and use it word for word everywhere. It's crazy how many people are trying different messaging on different channels when this one solve can help you drastically. So talking about offsite mentions, uh, most of what gets cited on LLMs today lives off of your own website, which is a huge, huge shift from how we've all been taught and have been running SEO for the last, decade plus. So the sources that are moving citation most are the ones that you can actually reach for free, which is a good thing. And like I said before, LLMs uh, don't like paid placements, right? There's no credibility in there. There's no authority in that. It has to be earned. And so what we know is Reddit and forums are making up around 40% of citations across all engines. There is some nuance between the different search engines or LLMs, but public opinion and honest, real conversation is coming from Reddit and public forums. The next thing we know are the best of and comparison lists. So these by far um, win any other type of format. And so the best thing you can do is try to build relationships with those writers. But as it becomes more and more saturated, it gets more challenging because, they know the authority that they hold. And so they're a little bit more, reluctant. There are some, services that you can pay. Again, I would be a little weary of those. The nice thing though is podcasts and YouTube are continuing to rise. There's been some narrative around podcasts being dead, but we're actually seeing those grow, significantly more and more over time. And YouTube, right? Such a great platform for you to dive deep and actually go in depth to solving your users or your buyers' actual pain points. Another way to look at this is you're providing net new information to the internet. LLMs are being trained more and more on their own data every day. And so when they see a net new source of information coming in that's original and unique, they're going to prioritize that, especially if it has strong domain expertise. Um, your own data. So this is something that I don't see enough people focusing on as well from a content standpoint. Is similar to the point above. LLMs are trained more and more on its own data. There's a statistic going around that 60% of the information on the internet right now was generated by an AI already. And so when you can provide net new information and original research, LLMs have something new to report on and to add into their data set, and they're going to hold that at a much higher value. Um, Wikipedia still adds a huge amount of credibility. ChatGPT specifically loves Wikipedia. And so if you're worried about ranking on ChatGPT, make sure that you have a Wikipedia page and it's up to date, especially if you're a business. So, how do we actually understand this? And so, the best thing to do to start figuring out what your buyers are searching, A, I would definitely use your voice of customer, go back through your sales transcripts and start to understand the language that they're specifically using. And so that you can use that to understand what prompts you should actually be tracking. Once you do that, you can start to find the lists that actually cite your category. So here's a prompt to use. Pretty straightforward, but should give you a pretty good starting point of where to get referenced on those offsite articles. So the prompt is simply list the article's best of pages and Reddit threads and AI engine sites. When someone asks for the top, insert your category. Give the page title and where it lives. Next, we want to pitch them. So, again, a simple prompt to just be like, hey, we saw you guys doing this. We would love for these reasons, X, Y, and Z. Include some proof. That's going to go the furthest direction. And then happy to send a 2-line summary you can paste in, right? You want to minimize the amount of work that they have to do to actually do you this favor, which could actually be a huge favor. And then going and how to respond to Reddit comments. So you can paste in someone asked whatever the real question is in a subreddit. Help me answer honestly from your expertise. Name our product only if it truly fits and never sound like an ad. Best way to get banned on Reddit is sounding too much of a paid promotion. So you want to minimize that at all points. I'm going to pause now. And just go back to the chat to see if there's any questions. Yes, Horatio, Quora works the same exact way as Reddit. They're both being cited. Although I would, if I was picking two to put my effort into, I would definitely prioritize Reddit over Quora. Looks like we have Justin maybe experiencing some technical difficulties as well. Charles, can you just give me a thumbs up on if everything's working from your end? Thank you. All right, so now we want to track our share of voice and how we fix that gap. So the audit tool that we will jump back over to in a few minutes here will give you everything on where you stand today, how LLMs, how scrapable and how readable your websites are from different LLMs, the technical side. They'll also do an audit on your full content. And then they'll also do and make recommendations of these offsite placements for you to get, those mentions, those third-party mentions. So what the 12 common questions are when people are searching your category, who names them, on all of the different LLMs. 3 competitors will always appear in every answer. Most of those answers cite a page that you don't own, so it will give you reference to those. And so this is something that you can keep track of each month. The website is gotcatalyst.com/AEO audit. It's completely free. We're only there to help if you want, but this should be plenty for your marketing team and your technical team to actually start making some actionable changes to be ranking more and more on AI search. So the monthly cadence to run is you want to be tracking. Another big thing about AI search versus SEO is the feedback loop. And so before you would make an adjustment on SEO and you would have to wait 3 to 4 months before you started getting meaningful data back on how that evolution took place and how that experiment was going. And so with AI, you can do that on a 2 to 3 week cycle. You can learn much quicker, which means experimentation almost becomes like a growth or performance metric, where before it was focused a little bit more on brand. And so we need to establish that baseline, use the AI visibility score tracker to understand where you are and how you're ranking. You can download the markdown directly into your LLM of choice as well and give you a baseline. Once you have that, you'll have the diagnosis, and you'll be able to know what to fix. This might be articles that you need to be posting. This might be some technical changes that you need to be making, so you're ranking higher and showing up more easily. Hint: if you have a JavaScript heavy website, LLMs are not able to read the information on that. So you want to make sure that you're structuring your website in a way that it easily understands what your business does and who you are. Next, we want to source the third-party mentions. So you want to earn 2 or 3 mentions in the places that are already being cited. So if we know that 4 best of articles are always talking about the best CRMs, we want to get ourselves on that list if we are a CRM. And then on a 3 to 4 week cadence, remeasure, and refresh. There will be new action items for you to do, and this will continue to compound month over month. Now, in this presentation, we talked about a case study of ours, Rise, and they are a perfect example of how, with a few minor changes and month over month compounding, you're actually able to make significant differences and make AI become um, and make it so you become ranking number one, and AI search becomes your best performing channel. So when our team started working with them, they weren't being cited at all. And after we have worked with them over 12 months, Austin, our team, has done a fantastic job continuing to grow. But they are now the number one recommendation across every LLM, ChatGPT, Gemini, and Perplexity. And so the playbook is simple. It just takes, it's simple, it's not easy. And so what we need to do is first understand the real claims and the exact question buyers ask search engines. I think this is where most companies get it wrong. They're not tracking the correct search queries. This comes down to really understanding your ICP, really understanding their pain points and what they're turning to LLMs for. Then we want to rebuild every page with a sourced answer in the first paragraph. So when LLMs go to visit your website, they're looking at the first paragraph of body copy to understand and verify that you are relevant, and that it has something that it can pull from. And if you can answer that query specifically in that first paragraph on the page, then you will be cited significantly more. Then they built those third-party authority signals in trusted places for the engines to read. Now, website sessions has been a huge metric we've been tracking, even though we know that the main spike and the primary spike actually comes from direct traffic. But ChatGPT and Claude will start adding UTM links to the end of their URLs, so you have a better idea for the people who are specifically clicking through. But all in all, within 12 months, they've been able to generate actually $8 million in pipeline, and significantly amount of more inbound requests of just sales qualified leads. And so, this has become a huge, substantial channel. Thanks, Horatio. Thanks for joining. So, what can you do about this? I know we went kind of high level, everything. There's a lot to do, especially when there's three key components. But we need to start by figuring out where we stand today. And so we want to run the audit so we can understand actually what your buyers are searching on these different platforms. And once we understand that, we'll know what they're searching and what LLMs they're ranking on. We need to make sure that we have unified messaging. So making sure that LLMs are discovering you in the same way each time on different platforms. This can be a quick little audit that you can run just to make sure that everyone is kind of referencing you in the same exact way. The next thing we want to do is write down your share of voice and which competitors got named. So look at who is actually ranking at each one, and make sure that you're seeing what other competitors are being ranked and on what sources. Then find those best of lists that people are already citing, and then go on Reddit and you can do respond to some answers there to make sure that you're building a credibility in that category. We've included, for everyone who's made it this far, some Claude code packs as well that can help you do and perform these actions. So what you do is scan this QR code. It will take you to Claude skill pack, which you can download all of these things. It will help you find the entity authority levers to pull. It will help you get mentions on the sourcing lists. It will give you three different outreach scripts ready to copy and paste to get cited on those external sources. It will take the AI visibility audit from the Catalyst website and tell you how to make those specific technical changes, as well as the content production side of things, and give you a weekly cadence and checklist for you to run this week and moving forward. Again, completely free for you to use. And we want to help you guys get to your goals as quick as possible, whether we're helping you directly or you doing this on your own. For those who have been using AI and really diving into it, it's definitely doable for you to run on your own. So take a look, see where you stand from AI. I'm gonna go back and just see if I can pull up this audit together, so I can see if we can run through it. Trying to do some debugging live, but let's take a look before we wrap. That being said, anyone have any questions that we can answer while we're here? Um, I know there's a lot here. Is this landing? I'm curious, for the more technical users, AI engineer, data analyst, how is this top of mind for you? I know, we have some people transitioning to a PM role. I'm always just curious kind of what people's relationships are with AI search, and how they're thinking about it today, and see if there's any questions I can answer specifically. Anyone in the audience? All right, I am going to run this one more time because we were able to fix it. Attio, the example that we were talking about through the session. I'm curious for Michelle how you're thinking about content production today, in this era of AI. Have you shifted your strategies of how you're producing it? Um, how are you using AI today? Genuinely curious. Yeah, I think it's going to be a long time until we'll see AI replacing SMEs. I actually think they're going to be the most valuable component in this entire process. Um, we obviously talk about uh, how important it is to provide net new information to the internet, and how it's insane how much AI is prioritizing this over every other source. And so those conversations, those real interviews with subject matter experts are going to be increasingly more and more valuable. And so, I think it's like I said, it's a long way away from replacing them. All right, I won't hold you guys any longer here. It looks like we have one little bug uh, left fixing. Um, So I promise by the end of the session, this audit tool will be working. But thank you for everyone who joining today. Thank you for all your questions. It's been insanely insightful and helpful to help people in real time. We do these sessions every week, and talking a lot about AI search, how to make it a strong inbound channel, as well as general marketing and AI. workflows and different processes that you can implement for your business to help get new customers. Feel free to send me a message on LinkedIn. Here, I'll drop it below. You can connect with me. Just say that you joined one of my sessions, and I will be sure to connect back with you, and we can, have some great conversations there. So, thank you for everyone who joined. Thank you for the repeat people who have shown up, and I'll see you guys next week. Thank you.